Next up, the conversation veers from the content to all the important revenue with the session on the best practices for securing revenue for OTT platforms. For many, OTT platforms breaking even is a distant goal with ludicrous sums being pumped in the content. Some, however, have cracked the code and will share the secret and tips with our audience today. So eminent business leaders and technologists will join the session, including INKA Entworks India Private Limited, Global Business Head, Mr. Govind Basatwar. I would like to invite Mr. Govind on stage. Mr. Govindraj is here. Then we have with us Pelicon and Stream-Sens Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Sourjya Mohanty. Can we... Okay. Mr. Sourjya Mohanty, can we have you on stage, please? Along with them, we have Eros now Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Lokesh Chauhan with us. Please welcome Mr. Lokesh. Okay. And along with them, I would like to invite, who's already on stage, the IndianTelevision.com founder, CEO and editor-in-chief, Mr. Anil Wanvari, to please be the session chair. Stage is all yours. It has always been, sir.
Thank you very much. Guys, this is very important for you all as writers, as producers, to understand the tech that goes behind it and how to keep your content. Why is it important to have security? Somebody was asking that his stories get stolen, but the revenue is lost in other ways also. So I'll begin by asking Govind, very clearly that what are the major challenges that OTT platforms and everyone faces in terms of security? Would you like to step in and talk about that?
Okay, thank you, Anil. So basically, we'll start with some sort of stats where the global piracy numbers are pretty high, which is 52 billion, and India is around, in India is around 3.2 billion. So in terms of when we see the landscape of the whole value chain or workflow, there are multiple gaps available for the imposters to get content out of the value chain, from production, post-production, then promotion, B2B distribution, and B2C distribution. These are the whole flows in the industry. Now, if you see, there are multiple loophole are available in the system. If you're not protecting from day one, it's high chances that your content get leaked. And if you're not applying the best practices, then of course it will be harm your whole revenue. If you see the stats in India or in world, so in 2021, there was 136 billion the pirated sites were visited. Out of that, India is on number three, which is 9.6 billion visits went from India. So we were on 7th, 8th of position, but after COVID, we were on a 3rd position. So these are, the numbers are growing very fast. And this will be the big problem for each and every content providers or OTT players in the market.
Okay. Sourjya, I'm going to ask you the same question. What are the major security challenges that OTT platforms face? After that, Lokesh, you can come out and answer.
So I think it's extremely important to understand that why piracy happens, or what are the challenges that one faces, a platform like us or anybody. They face the security challenges because of two reasons primarily. Because there is a hinterland and there is an urban segment of audience, right? And it's very difficult to sometimes create a segregation between the audience at times. And what happens is that piracy happens across urban segment and as well as a hinterland segment as well. So the primary reasons are that people more and more want to watch a content or consume a content with lesser amount of pricing, right? And sometimes they don't want to pay money for that. So the challenges are imminent, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to also eradicate those challenges. And piracy is one part of it. The second part is also about creating protection for our content within the stack, the tech stack, which is, we do not have, maybe we do not have a good DRM process in place. Or
Explain DRM,
yeah,
digital rights
so
management.
digital rights management, which is extremely important for any platform to embed, technically, to couple it with the platform, because that is a encryption and decryption mode where, whether the user is an authentic user or not. So the DRM technology basically, identifies that and gives you the rights to, watch the content. So that's one most important piece. The second important piece is the video player itself, so that also has a lot of attributes around, security and technology, where it identifies, authentic user than a non-authentic user. So these are some of the checks and balances that sometimes the platform use, or sometimes they sort of ignore it, and that is the result of why the piracy happens. So I think, as formidable players, we should be conscious and aware about what are the challenges we face if we are not sort of following the good practices around that.
Lokesh, over to you now. And what about DDoS attacks and stuff like that?
Let me come on to the more technical aspects of the piracy. So it's not just the content leak that's causing the hurt. It's the credential hijacks, the stream hijack, this bunch of what you'd say variations of attack that a platform faces. Specifically, DDoS being most commonly used term around it, but credential hijack by constantly using list leak from other platforms and trying to understand, is the same password being used by the same user on this platform, trying to brute force it. There are multitude of attack types that result in piracy. The reason for piracy is obvious. There are certain people who get kick off, being the better engineer, finding, oh, these guys are not so smart, I can break their security approach. And then there are obvious consumers who believe that it's fine sharing passwords with friends and family, which is not looked upon as a problem right now, but it's the growing concern for all of us.
So, but why is it important to set up defense systems? Why is it important from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important because, as a OTT platform, we have two streams of revenue. One is advertisement and the other is subscription, right? And, India is extremely price sensitive market, and it's extremely important to understand that if the revenue is deep in one of the quarters, it's not wise to increase the pricing, because that's going to inversely affect your overall user base. So within the given amount of base and the pricing that you have set, we have to protect our revenue. So that's extremely key for us. And to fortify the revenues, it's important that we judiciously use the password sharing. I mean, the algorithm that works behind whether to give unlimited sharing or to give 5 devices sharing. So that's extremely key for us. Secondly is that, nowadays what we have seen in last 5 years that I've seen is that audience is content loyal, not platform loyal anymore. So for example, if you have a great content for this week, you don't mind, moving to a platform rather than staying in the platform and trying to pay every month. So in a platform, in a non-loyalty situation where the content is the king, it's extremely important that you safeguard your customer base, ensure that your revenues are protected, one from the content side and second from the technology side, that there are no leakages in terms of, any kind of unauthenticated user coming and then, streaming the content. So that's extremely important. Third piece which is there is from the infra side as well, right? So the infra cost is always ever rising, and whether, there are 2 lakh streams or 3 lakh streams per day, the cost is going to rise. So it's extremely important to also manage the bottom line, and that can only happen when we have these checks and balances at a platform level. Because revenues are definitely going to be challenged with the user base moving, haphazardly between the platforms. That's key for me.
What's a typical day for Eros now, like in terms of, do you have traffic in the morning? Do you have, because managing the entire the tech stack is going to be very crucial. You have to ensure that there are, people are using different types of handsets, the bandwidth which is being available to them on their mobile phones is separate. So it's a very challenging thing. Writers think that writing is all about writing. Directors think it's about, they put out a show, they want, they want it to be watched. It's not as simple as that, right?
Coding is an art. People tend to believe we are not artists in our own domain, but we tend to believe we are. A typical day question part, let's come to that. So people go to office, they have traffic in morning while commute, people reach office, there's what you would say a slowdown. and similar spikes in the evening while going back or reaching home. Then basically it tapers off like 1 or 2 in the night. We're not that kind of platform which supports more of late night viewing, so that's understandable. Uh, that being said, the infra has to be dynamically scaled up and down. That's the straightforward challenge.
Infra, you
around
mean
it.
infrastructure?
Yeah. So
Okay.
infrastructure for compute, for caches, for databases, all of this is the key for serving at the expected SLAs that users will.
SLAs are service level agreements.
Yeah. So the number of users expecting things to start in a second or 2 seconds, that same performance need to be guaranteed when the spikes happen. So the platforms have to be dynamic in nature. They have to ensure the costing of scaling up is factored in while generating what you would say your code in itself.
Uh, how is it different in India as compared to other countries? Is it similar or is it different? Security wise, defense wise, as well as a day in the life.
Okay, so basically in India, the best practice is not has been used much because I come from the South Korean company. South Korea is much advanced, and they have the best practices such as they use all workflow in a single manner, which is from production to distribution. That distribution in terms of also application security. If you see, most of the SWOT get hacked 50% in India. That's a research has been published on Mint. You can read that about research. How that application based, so how that subscription model gets hacked. So usually hackers are removing your subscription module, and the mod APKs are available on the, even on, if you find any application available on a Google, and you can find the mod APKs. How they are doing it? It's a reverse engineering.
APKs, you have to explain what APKs
Yeah,
are.
APKs.
Explain what is the full form.
APK is your application. So those are mod APKs which does not require any credential. It will work on any device or rotate device. So there are many things are happening in India, but in Korea, Japan, US, they are aware of this sort of situations in the market, and they are working on putting the best practices even for application security, because in application side it's open, because when you have offered your application on Play Store, you have no control. It's it can be downloaded with imposter or genuine user, you don't know. So there are many hacking tools are available, so that can be harm your application, and your code get hacked, and there would be many things can be manipulated, man in the middle attack, or there will be memory cheatings, cheat tools, emulators. There are many things are happening around the world. So I would say India is still getting on a track. It's not there yet, but people are getting aware of the technologies where, as I said earlier, production, post-production, there are securities are available, but they are not aware of it. Then there is promotion-wise, when they start the promotion, that time also the security should be there. And then B2B, while they are distributing the film with 20, 30 people, at that time also there is a high chances your content get leakage. So you should have the whole the window, you should close the windows in any ways where you are thinking that my content get stolen.
Do you agree with what Govind has just said, Sourjya?
Yeah, I think it's a very pertinent point at this stage because mod APKs or the applications are available everywhere, and a lot of imposters are there who pose to be the authentic publishers of the apps, and that's how the revenue leakage happens in the parallel economy. So apart from that, Stream-Sens, the company that we handle, is also into live sports. So due to contractual obligations, I won't be able to name the client. So we handle soccer and cricket across the globe for 5 top associations. Now in that case, it's a challenge when we have 1.3 trillion users every day coming and then watching the sports. It's an extremely challenging situation for us, whether as Lokesh said, from the infrastructure point of view, whether it is a database or compute or storage. All of these challenges plus the DDoS attack and the penetration that the hackers keep on doing. So you have multi-level challenges that you face. The only way to do is that to get prepared every day when you come to the office or wherever remotely people are working is to do jailbreak tests. I think jailbreak is something that is a simulation that we do as to if I am a prisoner and I am trying to break out of the jail, what are those susceptible areas that I can first break in and then go out of the jail, which means that the hackers will be simulating those also on the other side and entering into our platform. So these are some of the good practices that we have been doing on a daily basis. And then we find a lot of vulnerable areas which we plug at the end of the day. And that's the only way to sort of manage the whole security system. I mean, there is no, optimal solution to everything, but it's about learning on a daily basis that whether it is DRM on a digital right protection or DDoS attacks, securing your web and app, and as well as looking for any, pirated websites and apps which are, loitering around in the parallel economy to strike them off. I think these are the 3-4 things that we look out for.
So I did believe most of it is already covered.
Anything else which you're doing beyond that?
Probably believe that all security solutions are heuristic in nature. There is no absolute security that anybody can put in. All platforms fundamentally are prone to attacks, and there is always going to be an evolution of attacker itself. So the attacker becomes more and more smarter, tries to find more and more info about things, how to do better attacks. And then there's always a set of information that you can't control leaking out. I believe democratization of content availability is the best way we can mitigate attacks. If the access in itself is more readily available at more affordable price point, it makes a far easier case for somebody to access it. Then try to install something like a hacked APK, which is going to probably introduce some viruses and introduce your phone or your machine with possible credential hijacks, your credit card information, your access to other side. All of that is vulnerable when you try to use any of the pirated solutions. We have to educate, we have to ensure that people understand the risks they are taking and make them believe it's not worth it.
Yeah, but why is this important for writers, directors, producers, and platforms? Why is it important for a writer to understand that content needs to be secure? Could you tell me, could any of you all step in? Why is it important? Is it because it means that much less money is coming to them as well? Or because revenue leakages are there, so content is not being invested in as much because they're putting up protection systems?
Yeah, I think it's a very pertinent point again. So exclusivity is something that's very important. So exclusivity remains with the platform or with a writer for that matter is when it is exclusively sort of streamed or showcased in a platform. Now with the security issues around, so what happens is that there is a leakage of all of this content or IP which is outside of this specific platform. So definitely what is supposed to be earned by a platform or for that matter the story creator, it doesn't come to them. The rightful amount of share doesn't come and it's a leakage. It's a revenue pilferage that happens. So as much as we can tighten the whole situation of leakage, everything is consolidated with the platform, then automatically the revenues, they surpass a certain benchmark. And that's how the partake of a writer, for that matter, a storyteller and the platform happens, in the rightful proportion. So the more amount of leakages we have, definitely it's outflow. And that's how the partaking or the ratio doesn't fall in place sometimes.
Govind, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. So I would like to add Sourjya's point where if you see the magnitude of the industry is credential sharing, the losses of 9.3 billion worldwide. So most of the people are sharing their passwords and there is no protection. The OTT platforms are, few of there are already utilizing, but still few are not aware of it. So, and even though there is few things which is concurrent stream user limit also, so which is most of the DRM provider don't offer it. This is the whole world is a mix of some sort of confusion or they are aware of the problem, but they are hesitate to start with something. So if you see in India, as I shared a few minutes back, that 50% of S-word model are hacked or it has already mod APKs are available. Because SWOT, most of the people are trying to get most of the popcorn movies or 1, 2, 3 movies. There are lots of P2P networks are available. And how to take down is another challenge, because in India, there are so many things are doing manual. They are trying to identify on the pirated sites, but there is no automated crawling happening. So in terms of the foreign countries such as Japan, US, and Korea, everything is automated, and the most of the big players, they have created a proper workflows which is securing from like Netflix, Amazon Prime. They do original content, or other many studios are doing original content. So they started from production to release. So they have created a proper workflow for securing content. So I would say if India start this sort of a best practice, I'm sure the revenue will increase a lot, and the writers, the directors, the OTT platform will get a better revenue stream.
Guys, how many of you all are actually downloading content for free? How many of you all are having accounts, legit accounts? Can you all put your hands up? Netflix, Amazon, Hotstar. So the rest of you all, I think, don't seem to be having account. It's not everyone in the room from where I am. How many of you all are downloading from torrent sites? Honestly, just put your hand up. Don't worry, they're not going to get after you. So nobody here is downloading from torrent sites. Wow, we've got no pirates in the room.
You need to ask if somebody is sharing for them.
Sharing?
So they're not downloading from torrents themselves, but their son, their
Is
friend,
somebody
their
giving
husband.
you a film on your computer on a pen drive? Is somebody giving you a TV show? Yeah. So it's happening. So you're part of this loss of this economy, which is not getting revenue. And even on AWOD, it's happening, by the way. It's not just happening on SWOD as well. How does that impact on the AWOD side? How does it impact in terms, is it the revenue, the number of ads which are streamed, etc.?
So absolutely. On the award side also, so obviously the publishers and the ad platforms, they heavily they're dependent on the content on which the ads are run. So obviously it gets distributed, left, right, center, and incessantly the ads run on multiple platforms though. So whatever is the rightful share for the platform on the AVOD content, it doesn't come. So the same way the SVOD, the way it is hammered or battered in terms of revenue generation, the same way the AVOD advertising revenue is also affected. And one point to be noted is that 80-85% of revenue of the OTT platforms emanating from India is from SVOD. And SVOD remains to be a very strong revenue source for all the platforms. Therefore, it's extremely important that to safeguard not only from a writer to a platform point of view, but also from a production point of view as well. So I think that's also a very key aspect, that at every value chain point, we need to ensure that the security is maintained.
If you remember the Game of Thrones leakage, which caused a furor some time back, that was the last episode, I think it was the last season. So that was a great, which caused a furor globally. Any questions from the audience?
Hi. If you're sharing somebody's account to see a film on a platform, is that a loss of revenue for the platform? Somebody gives you the password and said you can use my account.
So every platform has a restriction of how many users can watch. So beyond 5, usually the Indian standards are 3 or 5. But nowadays what we have seen that, for example, some of the platforms didn't have any restrictions. So once it goes to the sixth person could have actually bought the subscription, but then they, share the password and watch it. So definitely beyond the limit, anything beyond the limit is obviously going to be perilous for us. It's going to be hazardous for us, because that revenue it's an opportunity revenue loss that we face.
Can I add on to this? So ideally, I would not want anybody to watch it and share with everybody, right? So the idea of having certain limits is to ease of use. You want to have the access available to you while you're on phone, while you use your iPad, while you use your TV, while you're on the go using something else altogether. So the parallel stream or parallel access concept is pretty much there to facilitate the seamless transition from screen A to screen B without the hassle of logging in again. It is not in ideal scenarios expected that 4 people will log in to watch if 4 streams and parallel is allowed.
Your question.
I wanted to ask, how safe is it to use suggested passwords? Because you get tired of thinking of passwords, right? And then sometimes you get pre-suggested passwords. How safe is that?
Extremely bad. Extremely bad. Not just for OTT, but for anything and everything that you use. Try to find a pattern that makes sense for you. You don't have to remember random strings, then you probably are going to use one of those suggested passwords from the browser. That's still a much more safer, much more cleaner approach, that you use a unified password management service across your devices, something which allows auto-filling of password on your behalf, and then at a defined interval rotates out those passwords.
Any questions? Any other questions? Yeah. Sorry, you have one more?
All you great coders come up with something where one doesn't have to remember. We've got our password managers, but just to keep thinking of new passwords, everything requires it. So are there any attempts to come up with something other than passwords right now, apart from your fingerprinting, etc., which actually seems a better?
No, the fingerprinting is what he does for tracking. He hasn't talked about it. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's much
No, fingerprinting
easier.
of content is what he does.
Each time thinking, and then you put in something, and it's like, make sure there's one capital letter and one number and one symbol, and it's really
So on the
annoying when
phones,
you're
it's easier. When you log in, they ask you to get an OTP, especially some of the platforms. When you enter the OTP,
It's
you can watch.
tedious. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just tedious. So come up with something easier and better, no? Fingerprinting is great.
So on mobile phones, there are lots of applications are giving you the fingerprint or the face retina displays opening.
Facial
Yeah.
identification
Yes.
didn't work during lockdown with the masks.
Yeah, but now if you see the latest version of iOS, they have released yesterday, I guess, and even you are wearing a mask, you have to look down, your the lock will open for sure.
There was a question somewhere from behind. Oh no? Okay. Yeah, I'll just have him say a last word on what Pelicon is offering in terms of solutions, in terms of fingerprinting, in terms of crawling, and how they are taking down sites where there is pirated content available.
Yeah. So Pelicon does end-to-end 360 content security. Let's start from production to distribution, which includes application security also. So Pelicon has, in the industry, last from 20 years, understand the market, start from Japan and Korea, and create a value chain working with lots of customers around the world. And it has been a pretty successful the technology, because we have lots of patent. We are deep technology company, and we have created a SaaS platform. So we have a team.
Software as a service.
Software as a service,
Yeah.
correct. So we have a team sits who you will identify in orange. Black is new orange. So you can talk to these expert. Those are all expert in technical sites, and you can find out more. That would be a much better.
Great. Your last words on security and why is it, why everyone needs to have their own account, why everyone needs to not share accounts, and what they can do to help themselves by helping you.
Definitely. I think no to piracy is the first step of action that one of us have to, all of us have to understand that. And the more we stay away from piracy, we are sort of contributing to the platform growth and the whole ecosystem growth. And secondly, it's just like your money in the bank account, right? So you need to take care with a lot of security and a lot of care around how do you protect your money. The same way the content is also an investment. It's ageless. That means if the content is created 50 years back, also we continue watching it. And the more we take care of it and advocate authenticity and authentic platform, showcasing those, I think we can contribute to the whole ecosystem and then stay away from piracy. Apart from that, from the platform point of view, I think investment has to be there on the security side. The more and more awareness is spread best practices also around security, the more we will be, fortifying our revenues as well.
Lokesh?
Nothing is free in this world. You are the product. We believe if you are downloading, you're pirating, you're using credentials that are shared across from one of those shady sites, eventually it's come to bite you in the ass. You will lose credentials to more important sites, your financial information, or eventually you will be part of a large botnet attack. Your device, your compute, your battery, all of it would be used for doing something that you did not sign up for.
That's it. So thank you very much, all of you all. I hope you all, we made it simple enough for people in the room. And I hope you all had a great time in this session. I've learned a lot. Thank you very much, all three of you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, for this wonderful thought-provoking session for all of us. And I must say, इतना ही कहूँगी कि मुझे इस डिस्कशन के बाद एक चीज़ ज़रूर याद आती है कि सावधानी जो है वो सतर्कता में ही होती है. जय हिंद.